All right, so taking a look here at number 28, we are still solving the problem and we're still dealing with rational equations, except this time we have a little bit of a twist, and they tell us that the formula for electric circuits is 1 over A equals 1 over B plus 1 over C, and then they give us values for A and B, and they want us to actually find what C is, given that A is 12 and B is 19. So let's go ahead and take this equation that they've given us, and instead of using A and B, we're going to actually substitute the values that they've given us for A and B. And so we'll have 1 over A, but they tell us A is 12, so I'll have 1 over 12 equals 1 over B, except they tell us that B is 19. And now plus 1 over, well, they want us to find C, so we don't have a value to plug in for C. So that'll still remain 1 over C. All right, and we want to solve for C, which means we want to start getting things away from the C. So let's go ahead and subtract 1 over 19. Subtract 1 over 19. And what we're left with is 1 over 12 minus 1 over 19 equals 1 over C. All right, so obviously we're dealing with some fractions here, and if you've been watching these review series from the very beginning, Chapter 1, I think even in the introduction video for the Chapter or Test 1 review series, I said, make sure you get comfortable with fractions because they're not going anywhere. And so it's better to be able to deal with them. You don't have to like them, but it's better to deal with them. That way, when they do pop up, you're able to handle them without any trouble. So if we are subtracting, dealing with fractions here, well, we know that we're going to need a common denominator. And so I think our common denominator here is going to be 228. And if you're struggling with trying to find a common denominator, sometimes what you can do is multiply your two denominators together to get a common denominator. And in this case, that's what I did. So 12 times 19 is 228, and so that's how we arrive at our common denominator. So let's go ahead, and to get from 12 to 228, we have to multiply by 19, and whatever we multiply the bottom by, we have to multiply the top by. And to get from 19 to 228, we have to multiply by 12. Again, whatever we do to the bottom, we have to do to the top. And so really we're dealing with 19 over 228 minus 12 over 228 equals 1 over C. All right, we'll bring this up here. Well, what is 19 over 228 minus 12 over 228? Well, that gives us 7 over 228 equals 1 over C. All right, so we're starting to get somewhere. We're a little less complicated than what we started with. And at this point, what we can go ahead and do is, why not clear the fraction? Let's go ahead and, well, I guess we could do one of two things. We can either go ahead and clear the fraction like I was just about to do, or, I just actually noticed, I think it might be easier. Why don't we go ahead and cross multiply here? Because again, if you watched, I don't remember exactly what number question it was, but a few questions back, we actually dealt with one of these, right? This is a proportion, one fraction equaling another fraction. And so we can go ahead and cross multiply. So in this case, we have 7 times C equals 228 times 1. Well, that's just 228, isn't it? And so if we want to solve for C, let's go ahead and divide by 7, divide by 7. And now we have C equals, and go ahead and put that into your calculator, but you'll get a decimal, and I think it comes out to 32.571, and it goes on from there. But the directions don't actually specifically tell you what decimal place to round to, but definitely you want to round to 2. 3 is probably better, and you probably don't have to go any more than that. But 3 decimal places here I think is good, and so we have C equals 32.571. Let's go ahead and, since I started to talk about it, why don't we go ahead and I'll go show you what I was going to do. When I talked about clearing the fraction, well, again, we can go ahead and if we multiply this whole equation by 228, what we can do here is cancel 228 with 228. So we're left with, and this is just an alternative, 7 equals now 228 over C. And then if we want to get rid of the C, we can multiply the whole equation by C. and C cancels here, so we're left with 7C equals 228. And then we end up right back with, you can see, we end up in the same exact place, but it's one extra step. So doing the cross multiplying, I think, is probably the easier solution here. But either way, however you get to the answer, again, like we've said several times throughout the series, so long as you get to the same answer, it's all good. And so our final answer here is C equals 32.571.